All right, welcome to my live stream number 31. The last one got really interesting, and so yeah, if you guys want to check that out, there was like kind of a misogynist who hopped in the chats, and it was a really weird, kind of heated conversation, but definitely interesting. So yeah, so there's that, but it's also Sunday in the daytime, so you'll notice a lot of changes from my usual stream where, a lot of the time it's just me and quite often my wife working in the background on her kids' books because she's an illustrator as well. I am a graphic designer and art director. I've been a graphic designer and illustrator for over 15 years professionally, and I've been an art director for about 6. And this is the stream where I work on the thing I work on when I'm not art directing or illustrating or graphic designing, which is my comic books. And so my first book, my first published graphic novel, 2 stories, came out back in, December? I think it was December. And it is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. It's 122 pages, hand-lettered and inked. And I'm pretty proud of how it came out. But you'll notice on the front cover, it says book 1. And there are 2 books in this story. And so right now I'm going to be working on thumbnails and roughs. I'm kind of combining the 2, my thumbnails and roughs, into the same process to try to kind of streamline it. And I'm working on that while live streaming. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. And right now we're at the part of the story, chapter 10. And that's going to start getting into the more kind of hardcore parts about faith in the story. And I got halfway through thumbnailing it on our last stream and got slightly distracted in like a really long, crazy conversation. But that's what I'm working on right now. So I'm going to work on that and live stream. So if you're joining me, feel free to, stop in the chats and talk about stuff. And let's see here. Christians with. Okay. Today is also, it's Sunday. It's like during the day. I usually do my work at night, but I've missed a few days on my comic work. And so I'm using the day to try to catch up. And I do have some client revisions that I have to do on client artwork and stuff like that. And right now I'm working on page 103. So let's get into it. Page 103. Should be fun. Should be fun to see what all happens. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, it was definitely an interesting conversation on the last stream. And then I broke kind of from the stream to eat breakfast with my family and hang out for a little bit. And now we're back at it. So this is getting into sort of like before I became a Christian, I was pretty obsessed with the new atheists and like some of the and just kind of debating Christians. And this is establishing something before I found salvation. So it's talking about that. And so at the top, it has like a bunch of kind of Marvel style floating heads of the new atheists. And then it's going to get into some of the debunking I was a fan of at the time. But you're also going to be hearing a heck of a lot of noise, like ambient noise of different things happening throughout the house because it's the daytime. And my workstation is right in the middle of our living room intentionally, so I can kind of be a part of what's going on with family life. I didn't like how large I made this, so I think I'm going to reduce it. So my hope is in this stream to kind of finish up this page, and then we'll kind of see where we're at after that. All right. My son is running around pretending to be in Minecraft. So you'll hear a little bit of that, hopefully, in the background as well. Okay. Now we're going to have just a generic shot of a Bible for this, I think. I also need to look up, let's see here. There's a couple things I needed to do. Like one is take this image that I was referencing for the top and put it in my... All right, Crimson Owl Comics. Did you get off work, man? I hope you had a good day at work. It's funny, last time Ronnie of Crimson Owl Comics stopped by, he was at lunch at work, and I'm guessing you're off work now. Let's see. I hope you had a good day, man. Did you catch any of that crazy conversation on the last stream? It was kind of insane and interesting. I don't know. I feel like you might have gotten a kick out of it, but you might have missed a lot of the drama. Yeah. So what did you think? What did you think of the drama? Or did you catch any of the drama? I know you were at work, so you might have missed some of it. One thing that is like my best friend. Yeah, I don't know if you missed much, Ronnie. It was nuts. It was like a guy kind of trying to convince me that like women should not work. Like he was making the claim that like women shouldn't work and that they should just be trained to be like homemakers at home, and that like all the traditional family structures were eroding. He had like some pretty extreme viewpoints. And at first I was trying to like engage in just a conversation with him. And he just started getting so incendiary in the comments that I just eventually had to block him, which is a first, but I realize that's a learning curve with this streaming thing. I'm imagining like the more you do this, the more random people show up, and you might have to block people occasionally. But I was a little bummed because I don't like blocking or muting people. But yeah, it was an intense one. How's your comic coming, Ronnie? Okay. So this is going to be a picture of the Bible. Here we go. So here we can just use trying to find a good shot of kind of a classic Bible. There we go. Okay. So I needed that picture as reference. No need to reinvent the wheel on that. This set of pages I'm going to be working on is like pretty interesting. It's going to be more like infographic style paneling, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Okay. So here we go. And then we'll get into drawing this next panel. Only reason my wife doesn't work is because of OCD, depression, and anxiety. Then afraid to travel far from the house, which I pray your book will help her a little. I hope my book can help. It is tough when we're in a world where, like we're all kind of struggling with mental issues, and I tend to think the more openly people can talk about it and the more they can kind of discuss openly like their own issues, like their own health or mental health issues, like the better our world will be. Because I tend to think like just life is very hard, and it's like we've almost, as a society, I think a lot of people have like almost downplayed mental illness in a way that I don't even know if it's helpful, Like it's good to have the ability to carry on and kind of grit our teeth and get through hard times, but to sort of ignore the mental struggles of a lot of people is a very big disservice, I think, to like where we're at as human beings in a society, But anyhow, so Ronnie, how's your comic coming, man? Yeah, but struggling with that is really hard, and like the more kind of cocktails of mental issues that we have to deal with, like the harder it is. And I think like once again, like sometimes just getting out of bed, I think, depending on people's struggles, but sometimes just getting out of bed can be a tough one. Yeah, don't talk to a lot of your family because they refuse to understand her pain. Yeah, it's tough, It's tough. I think understanding and conversation is just huge. Because like the more taboo, awesome. That's cool. I can't wait to see you arted up, man. I think I'm excited about the comic you're working on, man. It looks really cool. Tortoise Bowl asked, what are you reading now, and what book do you recommend for comic book lovers to read? Huh. All right. Well, so I'm still knee deep because I don't have time to read physical books a lot. So I've been audiobook wise, I've been doing the Dune series. Like I'm on like the 4th Dune book. And then I've been reading this Murder Bears, Moonshine, and Mayhem by Luke T. Harrington because it's pretty amazing and funny. It's humorous. But for comic book lovers, if I had to recommend anything, I would say there's like a show I'm doing with Scott Strickland and Corey Kerr that we call the Indie Review Show. And in that show, which actually the next one is on Monday at 9:00 Pacific time, but we basically go through different books and kind of recommend different graphic novels and stuff from our collections that people could read. But I will say the most recent comic that like blew my mind that like more people should read is Rusty Brown by Chris Ware. I tend to think like just in comics, like in my opinion, like Chris Ware is the best cartoonist alive right now. So that would be my suggestion if you're into cartooning or comics, that would be good. I also would recommend, Talking to Strangers. That was a book I read really, really recently by, trying to remember, but I think it was Malcolm Gladwell is the writer. And that's a really good book too. And that's about sort of like the inability of human beings to detect if someone is lying, and but the importance nonetheless of like having empathy and compassion and approaching life from a standpoint of trust rather than distrust. Even though rationally we have a lot of reason to approach every situation with distrust. It's a really good book. So those would be my recommendations. I hope that's okay, Tortoise Bull. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend that. And then I recommend my book, Two Stories, which you can get on Amazon. And I'd recommend the printed version because like it's available as an ebook, but I tend to think with graphic novels, it's better to read them printed. So definitely would recommend that too. Hope that fulfilled the recommendations for you. All right, so this is going to be a Bible just kind of floating. It's funny doing these pages though, where it's like it's necessary, but these pages can be fairly less exciting to kind of fill out than like a fully sequential page. Although they're also a little more fun, like from the standpoint of design, like doing these kind of more design pages that don't have fully sequential elements, but are more like little infographic sections. Also, Tortoise, there's another thing I'd recommend. It's so funny. You asked like a simple question and I'm giving a really long-winded answer, which is kind of my MO. That's what I do. But I'd also recommend, like, if you're an aspiring creator, I would recommend reading The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It's like a good kick in the pants for creatives who feel like they're supposed to be making something and maybe are struggling to like pull the trigger and make it happen. So there's that. Yeah. So those are some tips. And then Gaz, dude, how's it going? Gaz, I'm guessing you're probably doing dad stuff since it's like Sunday. But if you want to hop in the stream too, I can send you a link on Facebook. You know what? I'm gonna send you a link in case you wanted to join in. Let me see here. Let me find it here. I'm gonna shoot it over to you on Facebook. If you want to stop in, cool. If not, no worries. Let's see, Gaz. Because Gaz and I are usually like Gaz is rad, and I've been wanting to like get him on our casters or something like that. But we're on off times, and then also. Okay, and then Gaz was saying he's waiting for the kid to fall asleep. That makes sense. Tried to listen to Dune. It was tough. I had to buy the book to follow along. I'll check out your book. What did you say? Oh, so the book's not by Rusty Brown. It's another. It's one by Chris Ware, called Rusty Brown, and that's just his latest book. I recommend reading anything by Chris Ware. Chris Ware is like a genius. He's my favorite. So yeah. Yeah. So okay. Anyhow, doing these little infographic scenes, I wonder if Gaz has this too sometimes, because it's like there's different sections of your books, and there's some that are like super fun, like Gaz does a really cool comic that has like a lot of like mechs and like, you know, like kaiju characters and stuff, and there's these big fight sequences that are really beautifully drawn. But then, so I just imagine like when you're roughing it out or coming up with like roughs and thumbnails, like it's probably really fun to get into those big action sequences. But then some of the necessary like exposition like between, or like pages where it's more like design based, like those can be less, I don't know, those can be hard to get through as a creator. I don't know, Gaz, do you have that at all, where it's like you're just like, oh crap, like I don't want to get into this boring sequence, I just want to get to the fight? I don't know, that's kind of how I feel here. All right, so here's a breakdown, and then it's basically going to say the Tower of Babel. Story. Okay. Anyhow, Gaz has a really good, especially if you're into Power Rangers, you guys should check out Gaz's channel, because he has a show where they kind of get into the nitty gritty and the ins and outs of the Power Rangers. And it's pretty interesting. I'm a person who, like, I never was really into Power Rangers, and yet I've watched a few of his his shows, and I have to say, like, it's one of those scenarios where, like, I remember commuting, I used to listen to Car Talk a lot on NPR, and I'm not like really a car person, but like their love and passion for cars like sort of makes it an interesting show. And that's sort of how I felt about seeing Gaz talk about Power Rangers, where I'm like, I'm not really into Power Rangers, and yet like this show is pretty cool, because like his enthusiasm and his co-host's enthusiasm for it like kind of makes it fun to watch and makes it exciting. I actually like drawing conversation with people sitting more than anything. That's cool. I don't mind the quiet sequences. I do like the challenge. But for me, like a page like this is fun. It's like a nice break from having to kind of redraw different environments over and over again. But it's like at the same time, like I want to get into the stuff where it's showing story. So floating heads and design like this is less exciting. Although I'm trying to make the page exciting, I have trouble keeping my own interest. Okay. More coffee. That's good. Especially because I usually work at night. Working during the day just feels like a drag. So the coffee is a necessity to kind of make that happen. Thanks, Gaz. Appreciate it. Yeah, so here is going to be this sequence where it's going to be okay, it's going to be cutting off about here. It's been kind of fun doing this this section though, and being at like the thumbnail stage. Okay. And just kind of draw like a giant tower. So I hope all is going well with the young child phase, Gaz. It's an interesting time where I still vividly remember, like, I'm imagining now you guys are probably getting a little more sleep. But it's like when Ben was first born, it was just like the most surreal thing. And there were really cool things about it. You know, it's really fun, but we missed like so much sleep. So just like, I remember having these like daydreams of like sleeping, being kind of these fundamental things. I want this to be more exaggerated, actually. Let's see. Actually, you know what? In reality, I don't even like this So I'm going to ditch that. Okay. Gaz said, first 6 months I refer to space madness. Yeah, totally. It is like that episode where you're just like, yeah, that's a really good description. Because you definitely have like some surreal, I don't know, it's like the weirdest drug trip you'll ever have in your life is the first, few months of your kid's life, where you're just trying to kind of keep your kid alive and at the same time like survive like early parenthood and stuff. Okay. So this is pretty basic. It's gonna kind of have like an earth here. Some core shadow nonsense going on. I think my son is pretending to be a cat because I hear him in the other room doing cat stuff. So anyhow, Gaz, you missed it. You would have loved my last stream. We got joined by a misogynist who was trying to make the claim that like he was saying that women shouldn't be paid equally to men, and that like the workforce that we need to train women to just be kind of like stay-at-home moms. And so I hopefully kind of schooled him properly, but it would have been interesting, Gaz, to see your response in the chat to that madness. It was kind of interesting. I don't know though. I feel like it'll probably make for a really interesting stream. Hearing me kind of navigate talking to that guy. Sounded like he was just a dude who like has a lot of pain and has had some bad life experiences and was kind of blaming it on groups of people as opposed to like just sort of acknowledging that he might have had like a hard life and his experience doesn't transcend to like everyone else's. But yeah, Gaz, you probably would have just owned the guy. I think I'm a little more patient with people in general, but even with him, like I eventually had to block him because it was just like I can't have this conversation at this point. The problem was like also I was trying to explain to him like like the logical fallacies that he was using, where it's like he kept appealing to authority or tradition instead of like making an argument. So he'd say stuff like traditionally America, and that doesn't work as like it's just, but yeah, even I, with all of my patience, after a while lost it. Some dogs. They're just going. Yeah, so that mindset. Sorry, we got a grocery delivery. It's interesting doing these streams during the day when everything's going. But yeah, that mindset was definitely it's hard to talk sense to nonsense, basically. But Gaz, had you been there, you probably would have just owned the guy. Yeah. Anyhow. How is everything? I forgot to mention also. So if you guys are watching, Gaz's comic is the Horror A4. And it's good. It's cool. It's got some really awesome action sequences and stuff. So I like to build people's emotions to feel for certain characters and catch them off guard with the horror. Ooh. Yeah. I think oh, on the stream? Thanks, dude. Yeah. OBS. I finally learned it. So, and I thought it would be cool for people to see, like, you know, I mean, I draw with like a Wacom, but it's like, at least it's interesting. And then the cool thing is when I do the streams and I'm inking, I'll be able to put it up above. I like the idea of building emotion though, for sure. Like, I mean, I do that a lot with this, where weirdly enough, like this issue or this volume, book 1 or book 2, is gonna it's gonna start like very intensely, where it basically is like nonstop, just like this happened and this happened and this happened, and a lot of it is on like a 9-panel grid, where it's like some pretty heavy emotional experiences. So it's talking about like a violent crime and stuff like that, and then it goes into like a neighbor like kidnapping me, and there's all this crazy stuff, but it's like heavy drama where it's just punch, 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 punch. And then finally there's like a respite, which is kind of where we're at right now. But yeah, it's like, I like to kind of, I do think the idea of like countering people's like emotional feeling when they're reading something, like by either like a slow build of emotion and then catching them off guard, or by like a heavy build of emotion and then catching them off guard with like a release, as opposed to like attention. I think that's stuff I think about all the time. Tortoise Bull, which by the way, your name is hilarious. Tortoise Bull is a great name. It's a great username. But yeah, said they got to go adults. That's okay. Adulting is what we do in this life. I think I want this to be a little more kind of, add a little bit more context to it and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting doing these streams during the day. It's definitely interesting because you get a lot of ambience. All right. We're 30 minutes in. Okay. And let's see here. Okay. Maybe we can get... All right. I don't know if I like that. I kind of want like a Radio City thing. Hold on a second. Radio effect. Radio City logo? No. I'm just trying to think of a radio icon. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so I was blanking out on it, and I was realizing I just want like the radio icon kind of look. I was trying to remember what that would look like.
I said I had to get ready. Did May call you? Did May text back?
So there we go. So I want to do like some of these little lightning bolt things radiating from here. I think our friend the misogynist is back, Gaz, if you want to engage with him in the chats. He's got like a different he's got like different YouTube user handles. So I kind of feel like maybe this guy is pretty used to getting banned from chats. I feel like I've addressed most of your points. YouTube troll. And I feel like, yeah. So it's they're bringing up like an Old Testament example of women being good wives and being trained or something. I don't know. I can't even. I mean, first off, like I know that the person commenting that last comment, you don't have to pretend you're not the same person I just spoke to on the last stream. Like, boom! Thank you, Gaz. Yes, that's a good question. Why debate gender roles in an art stream? That's a fair point. And then also, like, if you want to debate gender roles in an art stream, why not just acknowledge that, like,
You're sexist.
Half of the best artists in illustration in the entire history of illustration and animation, if not more than half, are female. So,
And immigrants.
yeah, and immigrants. So, like, really, if you're trying to be an artist and try to be like anti-immigrant or anti-female, like, you're clearly not aware of like the swath and rich history of cartoonists and illustrators who probably are like 20 times better than you are, who are women or immigrants. So anyhow, but I also just don't get why pretend you're not the same exact person in the chats. I'm going to show it too, just so people can kind of see. So YouTube artist was trying to kind of pretend to not be the same exact account that was on the last streams, and that's what they said. And I'm like, I just happen to know like that's the same person. Yep. And then Gaz was saying, I personally know some great artists who make less money than their wives and are stay-at-home dads. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And I even said on our last stream, you know, it's like my wife and I have a scenario where I'm the breadwinner of the family, but if she like got enough kids book work to where like she was making more money than me, and the roles reversed, I'd have no issue with that. Like, I think we're just kind of picking whatever the hell works, and we'll provide for our kid. And honestly, like, my wife's a better artist than I am, so I wouldn't have a problem with that. So yeah.
No, just a different set of skills, honey. We're just different.
Oh, and here, check this out. So now he reveals. So like, I just want to point this out. Gaz, you're in the chats checking this out. So here we have the comment saying that guy wasn't a misogynist. And then here you have him owning the fact that he's not a different person than that guy. He is that guy. He's saying, my mother would have a serious issue with your wife calling me a sexist. I've helped so many women. Okay, here's the thing, dude. You were being a sexist on a stream where my wife, who's a brilliant, talented, empowered woman who was drawing right behind me, overheard sexism and wasn't able to not speak about it because it was obnoxious, man. It's obnoxious. You are a sexist. Anyhow, as for being a racist, You're talking to a guy who begged his parents into letting his best. Oh, so you have black friends, so you're not racist. That's the argument. You know, every racist makes that argument like, hey, I'm not racist because I have black friends. Welcome to the racist club, YouTube artist. Okay, anyhow. Many art jobs don't have healthcare, so often non-artists will have traditional job for insurance as well. Yep. Boom. But yeah, I mean, really, like, to pretend we're in a world where, like, yeah, it's it's a hard conversation to have, and I don't want to mute you again. I'm telling this dude that, and I definitely I'm gonna try to be patient, but I gotta say, man, if you start going down the rabbit hole of like claiming like I can't be a Christian because I think women should have equal rights to men, and just railing over and over again about your own personal experience without at all considering any other perspectives, I might have to mute the chat. So just keep it nice.
I'd love to have a conversation with your mom.
And then it says the women in my family love me and understand my plight. My plight? You mean your comp or your plight? Because it sounds like you're saying my struggle, which is, I don't know. I'm just saying there's a famous book called My Struggle that's, associated with a lot of what you're propagating on here, dude. Yep, exactly. Gaz hurt, like he didn't even pay attention to the last stream, fellow in the chats. And Gaz pretty much pinned the nail on the head, which is you're generalizing based on personal or anecdotal evidence. Exactly. All right. And then here's Ronnie. You have to realize the verse was written in old times. Also in that time, children were taught by their mothers not to be men. So behind every good man is a woman who guided him that way. Or not by the men. Yeah, so anyhow. Buddy, you're still railing about court systems and like, I don't know who you're trying to convince. I'm not a lawyer. Like I'm a cartoonist. And I even told you, like, the courts might be like the scenario where you might actually have a point. Like I even gave you that on the last stream where I was saying, like, the world in general, our society is very biased against women. And you're right, like the one scenario is like divorce court where they tend to put preferential treatment to the mother, but you can't ignore the reason for that. And I went into that in great detail in the last stream. So, oh my goodness. And now he's saying that's the excuse you all use. Jesus didn't quote the new what? Oh, Frank's here in the chats. Frank, please talk to this guy. I'm gonna kind of stop engaging, and then if he gets like out of hand, all it takes, Gaz, Frank, Ronnie, if you want, I can mute the guy or I can leave him in here. I do feel like maybe he could benefit from conversation. Frank Salazar was asking what is going on. I had a crazy like a guy who claimed I wasn't a Christian because I thought women should have equal rights to men. And he seems to think that's some kind of unchristian premise. And then he has some real like anti-immigrant and anti-women sentiments that I think boil down to just like a personal experience, a bad experience with the courts and his own kids. And so it's a long, exhaustive thing. See, once again, you're getting personal, man. You're talking about your own personal experience. I don't even want to pull it up, but he's talking about how the courts aren't letting him see his kids. Okay, great. Am I a court? Am I a court system that can rectify this situation for you? No. Like, and Gaz has a good point. There's a lot of passages that you could interpret as endorsing slavery. You could interpret as endorsing like stoning people who lie. I mean, like, there's a lot of Old Testament passages that we don't think apply today if we're serious Christians. And unfortunately, like there's a lot of Christians that are like equating and boiling stuff. So you not being able to see, this is why this is so frustrating. Okay, dude, you're like 2 seconds from getting muted. But it's like, this is why it's so hard to have a good faith conversation with someone like this, because it's like, you're saying, I'm not talking about my personal experience. 5 seconds after you said, you didn't explain why my kids should not see me because other men were bad fathers. So that right there, your kids not being able to see you because of the courts, is a personal experience, and you're bringing it in this conversation heavily, dude. And it's really getting boring. We had a long one last time. Wow, this is just YouTube artist. This is not the place for this. Frank is correct. I don't know, guys. If you want me to block, I'm cool. I don't know. I just feel bad blocking people. I hate doing it. Let's see here. Yeah, exactly. He keeps changing the goalposts. That's what I said in the last one, where it's like initially I even challenged his first assertion and disproved it. And by that point, he had gone on to like 20 assertions and kept appealing to authority or appealing to tradition, which are like, you know, these are just basic logical fallacies. And it's like, if you're not even going to join in the premise of a logical debate, like I can't even pick. Okay, so anyhow, I'm enjoying how this is going. I'm a father. I've got pretty good rights, dude. Just saying. You know, it's kind of weird, but I'm a present father who's there and active in my kid's life. You're in a world full of fathers. Hi, Mama Soto. How's it going? I think I'm just gonna have to boot this dude though. So we're being joined by like this crazy misogynist. Yeah, Gaz is pointing out he's a father too, right? Like you have a lot of fathers in this chat. Oh my goodness. All right, dude, you're still talking about your experiences, and I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry if you've had a bad experience with your own kids, but this is not the venue to kind of bring out like your own personal experiences. In fact, here's a suggestion for you, man. I'm writing a memoir right now, right? I'm on 103 pages of book 2 of the memoir. Oh, thank you, Gaz. Yeah, have a good one, man. I'm going to be booting him in a second. Yeah, and then here Frank is mentioning he's a divorced father, a Christian, and a Latino. So, so anyhow, here's my suggestion. I'm writing a memoir, right? And it's about my conversion and my experience with struggles with feeling suicidal and kind of working out relational issues with my wife, who's my now wife. And I'm on book 2, right, where I'm talking about my conversion from atheism to Christianity. Here's the thing. You're an artist, man. If you're an artist, go make a book about it. And then people can come to your chats and talk to you about that. But like in the meantime, like I'm not personally going to be able to solve your own personal issues with like losing touch with your kids and stuff like that. Like I feel for you, but like I don't know if this is the venue to work that out, you know? So all right, so I'm gonna go ahead. Well, I'll leave you on, but if you keep going, dude. All right, so let's move the topic. How are you doing, Frank? Please provide me with something other than this conversation. I'm sorry, like to the guy in there, it's like you're not gonna not gonna convince me to be a misogynist. It's just not gonna happen. All right, so okay. So now I'm going to get back to this part where I'm talking about when I was an atheist, like some of the things that bothered me in Christianity. All right. All right, dude. Goodbye, YouTube artists, who I'm sure you'll just come back in a different name. I'm doing all right. Finished page 7 of the mini I was doing. Awesome. Yes. Okay. Page 7. That's pretty good progress, man. I'm about to finish roughs and thumbnails for this page. Been working on it too long. Working on page 8 in a little bit. That's awesome. Frank was kind enough to have me on the Tarako Creative Cast and had a really good interview that happened with that. That was pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, so page 8 will be your last page. That's awesome, Frank. And then Mama Soto, how are you doing? I don't know if you managed to catch any of this interesting, crazy stuff. Ooh, I love it. I love that. Oh, nice. Well, I hope you have a good meeting. I appreciate you stopping in, and I appreciate you picking up 2 stories. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've had the time to read it, it's a very like personal book. Oh, thanks, Frank. Yeah, I like getting in deeper conversations too. It's kind of a bummer because I feel like the guy who was coming by here, and it's like I empathize with some of what he's going through and stuff, but it's like I feel like by sort of shutting down arguments by presenting like a kind of cartoon version of like reality or what he thinks and kind of refusing to like stick to like a point and like hear people out, I think he's missing out on some of that potential of like a really deep, interesting discussion, because it's like you can get in really fun conversations with people, you know. Oh, nice. Yeah, Carol Dweck is amazing. She's just amazing. So I think that's great. And then if you want a quick read, do the audiobook. It's very cool. That is good. All right, so let's see here. React. So this part is going to be the next of that 3-section thing. Oh, nice. Yes, I read. Oh boy, we can have a chat. I was a dark horse as a kid for many reasons, valid or not. Loved the book and could relate. That's awesome. The book is kind of written for dark horses. What's weird is the older I get, the more I realize, like, I think a lot of people are dark horses. You know, I tend to think a lot of people, more people are dark horses than admit, you know? And I think the older you get, the more you realize, like most people had rough childhood experiences, even if they were like, you know, not super dramatic or whatever. It's interesting, but I'm glad you got something from it. That's cool. All right, so here I'm going to put, this is going to say, in this story in Genesis. So I'm working on this next section where it's basically talking about some of the beliefs I had when I was an atheist. That God seems literally threatened by man. And this is kind of getting into a little bit of the mindset that I was at the time. All right. And then we're almost at an hour. So I will probably be taking my little 5-second break that I do at the hour mark on my streams. He's back. No. All right, dude. Again, you keep making like 50 accounts just to kind of troll. And you seem to be like the guy who you seem to really want to talk about like father's rights in a courtroom. And that's not my expertise. Like I'm not a court. I'm an artist on YouTube who's pretty left leaning and happens to be a Christian, right? And so it's a little off topic. Now, when you're saying like it's your reality, what I was saying is your reality is you keep conflating your own personal experience to be the arbiter of truth for all experience as a whole. And that's just not the case for anyone. So it's like, you know, I personally grew up poor and I experienced certain things in poverty that other people may not have experienced. I cannot therefore assess that that experience that I had was the experience that everyone has. Now I'm going to block you again, dude, because it's just too much. It's just too much. Okay. Let's block him again. Yeah, and then Frank was saying, make a channel of your own and rant on there. And I think he has one. It's like, oh my gosh, I forget. It was something comics, like some sort of like Christian comics thing. And definitely not the brand of Christianity I would back. But yeah. Finally home. Art time has blast off. Good. Yes. I love it. All right. So like I said, I'm going to take my little 2-second break. I hope Ronnie and Frank, you stick there with me and draw whilst hanging out here. If not, no worries. And we'll see if our friend, our misogynistic friend finds another crazy another crazy rant. I also like that Frank pointed out he went through a divorce, has full custody of his kids, but no one's keeping his kids from him. He can go see them if he wants. So that's good. And then yeah. So anyhow, I'll be right back. Hopefully. Sorry. So many just need to be validated. He needs to fight for people like him. You have a great day, guys. Keep on, keeping on. Yeah, I will. And yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like he's kind of coming at things from his perspective, and I'm empathetic. But please stop trolling my YouTube.
Well, what I'd like to know is what innovative, amazing thing is he going to do for the country that all these other immigrants and women should step down so that he can do?
I think.
Like, what is his idea? What plan does he have? Is there what creation? What things does his self have to offer that we, as women, should get out of the work field and stay at home for, so that they can do these amazing, creative, innovative, whatever it is for the government. What is it? Go ahead and tell us. Because if you have something that amazing, I'll gladly step out of the workforce and I'll stay in the kitchen.
I think at the end of the day, I think he's a guy who has a lot of pent up feelings and emotions and needed validation, which he probably is not going to get from me because I'm not going to agree with him on I'm not. All right, you guys, I'll be right back. Hopefully it can stay on a more positive note, like outside of that, and then we'll see. So I'll be right back. All right, here we go. Now back to working on comics, right? Okay. So this one's going to be sort of this cartoonish version that I had in my head of and I actually did a comic where I did this kind of treatment when I was an atheist, that I'm kind of referencing here. So this will make more sense in a second. All right. And then Frank was saying he's almost done with the horror comic he's doing. Might have to resize the pages. They look a little blurry when I export. Okay, so little trick with blurriness on a PSD is usually that's because they're not there's this thing that the screen does, for instance, the way I'm working right now, this is for roughs, thumbnails, so I'm not worried about them being on final print. But if you're trying to get heavy blacks, if this were going to print, I would want to convert this so that when I zoom in, these pixels aren't blurred. And so what I would do is go to image adjustments and probably do threshold once I've done some levels to kind of balance it out. Ooh, hang on a sec. Forgot this is a transparent layer. That's a bad example. Here, I can show you real quick. So, okay, so if I have a big blurry set of lines, I don't know, I have a face. Let's see here. Right? I don't know, an eyeball. There we go. And I'm okay, this is my angry eyeball. And then when I zoom in, it's super blurry. You see all those pixels. So if you want that to be solid blacks, right, you would first do an adjustment on the brightness and contrast. And then if you just hit threshold, boom, it's going to make it solid black and white. So that will print just these solid clear blacks. So if you ever, just as a tip, Frank, if you're having issues with the aliasing, and then when you're creating art, obviously, if it's done in this style, it's going to have a realm of aliasing because it's like a pencil line as opposed to like a solid ink line. But that's what I do when I'm cleaning up my inks. So, if you look at something like the poster I did for Scott Circlin, which I did for his birthday, and you can get at circworks.com. I guess there's like a limited run of like 5 or so of them that are available. But if you look at that poster and like the blacks are like really like just solid clear black, that's the trick. So weirdly enough, I don't know if that helps at all, or maybe that's just unwanted advice. If it's unwanted advice, I apologize. Yeah. So here we go. I have, this is going to be like my sort of atheistic version of God, what I thought he was, which is not what I think he is now. All right, so here we go.
Yes, Mom. Could you spray my feet? Yeah.
And then we got this. And I kind of think it was like I was drawing him as like a King Triton type figure. It's like, oh no. So there we go. So it's kind of fun to work on a Saturday during the day, though. It's kind of fun to do.
It's a liquid spray. It's a little different.
And then we got this going on. And Frank said it's good advice. I'm still figuring out digital art, so any help I can get is appreciated. Yeah, so like in digital, like aliasing was invented mostly for the screen, although it's sort of unavoidable if you're doing like a watercolor style where there's a lot of gradients and stuff. But it's basically so that things will look smoother on the screen. The problem is it does not translate well to prints, especially if you're doing like solid black and white kind of cartoonish style art. And then I also realized this is going to be like a cartoon version of God. So I think he's going to probably not have, he's going to have like white hair, not jumped in there with shading where I really shouldn't have. Yeah, and I'll probably be getting more into some more like digital process stuff as I get further along. Like I know that when I'm done with these thumbnails that I've been working on, then I'll be doing grid layouts and type and stuff in Adobe Illustrator. So you guys will get a little sneak peek at that. And then after that, I'll be doing pencils and, more importantly, inks and ink cleanup. So you will probably be seeing quite a bit of my process as these streams continue on. So let's see here. Oh, and then I remember I had drawn him with like that kind of thing. He was saying the text is coming out hazy. I bet if you zoom in, because that's the thing with type, like it does the same thing where the edges of type comes out kind of aliased. So it's like something that's anti-aliased looks like a step ladder. Hold on a sec. Sorry, something that's anti-aliased comes out like a blurry thing when you zoom in. Like you're not actually going to see like a full black edge to the pixel. Here's an alias line now. So an alias line, when you zoom in, it's going to look like that, like a step ladder. And if you're doing type, you want to make sure it's aliased because that'll print out crisp as hell. Whereas if you're doing anti-aliased type, hold on a sec. Anti-alias type will look more like that, where it's going to have more blurriness on the edge, and that's what the blurriness is that's printing. So, yeah. All right, so here we go. I'm going to sort of have like a crown. Okay. So I'm thinking that this might be sort of where I'm going to have this hand almost as like a thing, and then we're working on working all this out and kind of making the last part of this page. Although I feel like, did I end up taking? No, I didn't. Okay. I need to get a refill of my coffee as well. This is the downside of working during the day, is constant coffee refills that are necessary. So Frank, like, it's a horror comic, horror themed. I'm curious, like, what is the horror theme? Give me the pitch, Frank. What's your horror themed comic about? I always think horror would be a fun genre to dip into. And then there's no reason to reinvent the wheel here. I should be able to do this. All right. Okay. Then I'm going to have this figure here up in the corner. But yeah, like the way that I'm working on these thumbnails and roughs is definitely not for finish. And I would not recommend this being like people's process for like finished art, because it would definitely print very blurry. Interesting. Frank said he used the song from John Denver, "Plant a Tree for Your Tomorrow," and twisted the message. Interesting. I don't actually know. I don't know if I know John Denver, you know? I just don't even really know if I am as familiar with John Denver as I should be. Is John Denver any good? I don't actually know anything about him. That might make me ignorant. I like to know a lot about music, but that's one of the ones I don't. All right. So we're almost done with this panel. Yeah, so it's been an interesting day of streaming, getting some work done, talking with some very strange people who I think have some issues. Like I think that guy that kept stopping by in the chats, like I feel bad for him. He sounds like a guy in a lot of pain who's experienced a lot of like personal loss and issues that he's now taking out on women and on immigrants, and I think that's unfortunate. You know, it's kind of a bummer. I hope the guy like meets caring people who will like sort of disprove some of his notions about the world. But what a bummer. A lumberjack needs to get wood from his fireplace. He finds a family of tree people. Oh, I like it. That sounds pretty interesting. I'm curious. That sounds sad though. I just think about all these trees and how sad that would be. There's like a Silly Symphonies from back in the day that had these like dancing trees, and that makes me think of like Silly Symphonies. So he has like a folk music style, is what Frank was saying. I'm a little bummed that I don't know. I mean, I'm probably familiar with some of his songs. I'm just a little bummed that I don't know. This will be, once again, more like that. It's the weirdest page ever, but I think that'll work. Okay, so now I'm going to get some coffee. I'll be right back, guys. Need some coffee. Starting to wane. Okay. So I kind of think if I were going to write a horror comic, what would I write? I find it fascinating, this part of human behavior where, and I know this is a standard thing with a villain. It's just I haven't written a story with a villain in a while. But I think it's really fascinating. I think it's really fascinating to think about villains and what their rationalization is for like their horrible behavior. And usually it's like a like a really current version of that would be like, with the insurrection, where it's like you had all these people like beating police officers with the thin blue line flags, and like, some reports from the police officers during it that were like, it was the weirdest thing because they're like beating them and saying, we're doing this for you. And I would think of that, like, not to be like political or anything. It's just, I think that's fascinating for like a horror comics, like the idea of the figure in it, like whoever the villain is or the horrific figure is, thinking that they're doing what they're doing for the good of humanity. Because I think that like justifies a lot of bad behavior by a lot of people. And so it's like just the idea of like that as a horror comic might be an interesting thing to explore. Like someone who's doing evil, but literally is just like, we're doing this for you, I think that would be, I know it's been done, but it's just like, I think that would be interesting. I also really would love to do nah, don't go happy ending, Frank. If it's a horror comic, it doesn't have to have a happy ending. You could have like a Revenge of the Tree People version where it's like the tree people survive, come back, and then they like hunt the hunter. So now it's the hunter being hunted. Okay, so like a petulant. This is a hard part to write in this story because, like I said, I'm writing about my viewpoint of God before being saved. So it's very weird because it's very different from what my view is, even in this story, like pages from here. But I think it's important when we're writing books to tell the truth to where we were, especially if we're writing memoir, right? All right. That's what I was thinking too. A Revenge of the Tree People. I just felt guilty. Yeah, it's an area of comics I haven't delved into much, you know. Like I've spent so much of my time doing cartooning that's like, you know, slice of life and stuff that I haven't really been able to fully embrace or get into the darkness of horror. But horror is such a fun genre, you know. I feel like Robert's doing something really interesting with it too. But I do like more psychological horror. Like that's my favorite kind of horror, is like more suspense, or like limited, kind of imagination based horror. I think is pretty fun. Anna asked you why you have a hatred for plants. What did the plants do? Well, I'm just imagining like just from what you described, I imagine like a Silly Symphonies kind of scenario where it's like all the plants and flowers are all happy, and then this, you know, like this evil woodsman comes in and just like hacks them all down. That sounds brutal. All right. So we are almost done with this page, and then I only have 2 more to do today. Once I'm done, which shouldn't be too bad. So this is going to be the building getting punched by this cartoon. Frank said, I don't usually do horror, but I wanted to step outside my comfort zone and didn't want to burn out on superheroes. Yeah, you know what's funny? I haven't delved in superheroes since I was a kid. And I think it would be fun. I actually weirdly enough, wouldn't mind doing like a superhero thing maybe after all this. If there's one thing from being like working on a project for as long as I've been working on this, you do start thinking about like different genres you can work in. And it's like I'm working in this genre because I feel led to. Like I feel like this is the book I'm supposed to write, you know? At the same time, it's like I think it would be fun to play in a different sandbox for a little bit. So I totally get that, Frank. Probably a smart idea to kind of vary it too, so you don't get super burnt on the same thing, you know? It's funny, in the background I can hear my son like playing. He likes to play he's really obsessed with Minecraft right now. It's pretty interesting. Oh, nice. I'll check that out, Frank. I'll check those out in a second, okay? Frank said he sent them on Discord. Ronnie's sharing with Frank in the chats some like funny wood puns that that they could, you know, when they get their vengeance on the tree guy, when the tree guy comes back and gets his vengeance on the woodsman, they could be like doing a lot of puns based on wood. That's hilarious. That's a funny idea. All right, we're almost getting there. This page will be finished shortly. It's funny, like I always feel like this comic making thing is a game of patience too, where it's like you're just sort of trying to play out the clock, like and trick yourself to think it's less time than it is. For me, I feel like half the game is just being like taking it step by step and kind of trying to forget the time invested to kind of make these things. Or in this case, in the case of today, you know, like occasionally getting a big weird debate on online with a stranger regarding the whole thing. All right, so this is going to be the arm. And then we're going to get hands here. And I do want to check out those pencils, though. I'm just trying to get through these pages, Frank, but I'll check them out before I do my next page. I will scope out your pencils, dude. This is an interesting question. Frank and Ronnie, what got you guys into doing comics and working on comics? Frank, you talked a little bit about it on Tarako. But Ronnie, like, what got you into making comics? What drew you to it? What keeps you at it? What keeps you showing up to the page? Kind of curious. This is going to be a crumbling tower. Crumbling towers. So we're getting there. We're going to have this be a little more cartoonish. Some more buildings kind of fallen. So this will get me about a third through what I need to get done today, which is not too bad. All right. Oh my goodness. Gonna just knock this out and then we'll get into this madness here. All right. I'm going to have a little bit of the world going here. Okay, now let's get these guys here sort of worked out with some more detail to them. And I know I mentioned it before, but if you guys are around Tuesday, around like 4 o'clock Pacific time, I'm going to be doing I'm going to be a guest on the comic book club, which I'm excited about. It's a pretty good show. And they have been kind enough to have me on to talk about 2 stories. So I'm going to do that. A little nervous because I think it's live. But the nice thing about doing these streams is it gets you a little more used to started doing stuff live. So hopefully I'll do okay. But yeah, that should be a pretty interesting thing. And actually they're on YouTube as Comic Book Club. And I believe on iTunes as well as like a podcast. So worth checking out. Okay. Boom. There's that. And then we have one last panel to go. Oh my goodness. One last panel to go on this stream. Frank was just saying, I like comics as a kid. I didn't always have access to them. Comic strips were my introduction. The schools would give out some PSA comics, and I'd find chick tracts. Nice. Yeah, I think the first comic I read was a free comic when I was a kid. Like comic book, like a legit comic book. Other than that, it was Sunday strips, like stuff like that. But my first like comic book, like not, a Calvin Hobbes collection or whatever, those I had when I was a kid. But the first comic book I got was one called Spider-Man Adventures in Reading. that was a free giveaway at a public library. And I was like, this is the coolest thing. And then I remember like I would go to like read more gifts and 7-Elevens and stuff, and I would like buy them off the spinner racks. And that's how I got into comics. Ronnie said, I love everything artsy. I used to want to act and sing on Broadway, then married the love of your life. No rehearsals and shows take up family time, so I thought was my second love, comics. Yep. That's good too. And comics are kind of acting in a weird way. I mean, there is a lot of production to it. I think that's a huge thing in illustration too that people don't think about, is like the acting element of it. Where it's like you're doing staging and lighting and emoting. Let's see here. Even scattering. Languages. Prevent. I think a lot of cartoonists are actually drawn to that too. Prevent them from Sorry, I'm working on writing the text, but I did see Ronnie wrote something pretty cool in the chat, so I'll get to.
It's a dog, Cookie. Come on. Oh, yeah, it's pretty. It's very pretty. Oh, sure.
Harmonious.
Okay.
All right, so let's see here. Even if I don't make any money off my comic, I love to one day inspire the next generation to not giving up on their dreams. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I also like the idea of like just sort of presenting people with options that are beyond just like money. Because I mean, there's more to life than just like what you make, you know, whether that's financially or artistically. And I think like opening people's eyes to that, to the fact that like you can make something that's just to be really cool. You can make art that's just art for art's sake. Frank was saying, was YouTube artist the misogynist Christian from your last video? Yes. And he followed me to this one. Isn't that insane? Anyhow, the only reason I even titled it that was after a long conversation. Was like, oh, okay, I see what you are. Let's see here. And then you said, I mean, I used to want to sing and act on Broadway. That's cool though. Like I said, I think there's a big overlap of those two, you know. Anything harmonious. Okay. All right. We are almost there. We're just going to have scattering languages. This is going to be a hard one to depict, but I think I can. Like the little engine that could, I think, is half of the thing that is required here. So then we got this. If you don't like money but comics, for a few dollars you can get the comic. Frank is always hustling his wares, which I admire. Actually, I think that's pretty awesome to be that ambitious. Oh my goodness, how do I get this going?
Brush your teeth. Toothbrush is all ready for you.
All right, so we're just doing this little rotation of heads that are all confused. And we are almost done. There we go. So yeah, and I usually don't like toss around the word misogynist, but it's like on that last last stream, kind of came out that he didn't even think women should work, and that's where I was like, I don't mind calling that like a misogynistic viewpoint. Like he just thought, yeah. So thus why I changed that title on that last video. Okay, so in this case, I want to have someone with thick eyebrows. Let's see here. Maybe this person will have like a beard. Yep. Okay. We are almost there, you guys. We are almost there. Two more to go. So anytime that I am almost done with something, I always quote Star Wars, the trench run, with like the almost there. And that actually makes me think of something that you guys should all check out, which is my buddy Chris Kawagua did like an After Effects animation of the trench run from Star Wars, like the targeting computer. And then he also afterwards figured out a way to have it on the video screen of his computer, or sorry, not his computer, of his car. So when he's driving, he can actually have the trench run targeting computer going. And that's the coolest thing. So I definitely would recommend to check out Chris Kawagua on YouTube. He has like a YouTube channel. And he's also under like Sketchboy01 or Kitten Rivet. You can find him and his wife, their art on Kitten Rivet. But I'm just saying it's pretty awesome. And I saw that today and was like, that is pretty bloody amazing. All right. So now for this last one. I need to have that a little more over here. Doing a circle of heads. I know, it's the most fun thing in the world.
Benjamin?
And there we go.
Are you brushing your teeth?
And
Oh, I'm about to start. Okay.
oh my goodness, we finished the page, you guys. 2 streams in. And finished the first. Wait a minute, I'm not finished. Oh, I was almost done. So 2 streams. That would have been 1 stream, but I had to break for some breakfast. Okay, and here we go. And then I just want to have a little. Okay, here's the. I have to size this down a little bit. And actually, this should work out because it'll be like breaking right in time for lunch. I hope you guys are making great progress on your own personal comics. Whilst this stream was going on, I hope it was wildly entertaining for you. I will tell you I'll probably be streaming again, like toward the afternoonish time, in order to catch up on the comics I needed to do the last few days. So this gets me 1 day. Now I just have 2 more days to try to catch up on the work that I need to get done in order to get this book done at some point in the near future. And let's see here. Tortoise Bowl. Again, I really love that username, Tortoise Bowl. I don't know why. It's very funny. Does that sound funny to you, Mai? I don't know. Tortoise Bowl? Yeah. Kind of a cute. It's just a cute username.
All right, Mom. I think I'm done. Okay, baby.
Tortoise Bowl said.
You know what brushing my teeth?
You've probably gone over this before, but what was the moment you knew you wanted to make comics for a living? It's a weird thing, but for me, the thing that made me want to make comics was just a pure love for the medium. Like I have always felt like it's the best form of storytelling. And like I'm drawn to a lot of stories, drawn to a lot of storytelling, but there is something about the visual and the textual and what is possible in comics that I just don't see as possible in any other medium. And so for me, it's like I'm a person who I'm never comfortable being on the sidelines of something that I love. Maya, are you printing?
Yes, I'm sorry, I have to.
No worries. But yeah, so like for me, that's the big thing. And I love Frank has a good saying: make comics, not excuses. But yeah, so like to me, that would be the big thing. That would be the big thing that got me to really want to do comics. It's the best thing you can do as an artist. Also, just the potential of comics. Like, I feel like what comics have explored has not touched what literary works have explored, and I think it should. So I feel like the potential for things like memoir and historical fiction and stories for adults has gone fairly untapped. Like there's a whole bunch of great examples of things in the art form, but I feel like it's also one of those things where we haven't quite been able to match the potential of what's possible with what we've made in comics. So totally rambly, but great question, honestly. And yeah, all right. So now that I'm done wrapping it up, let's see what this final page looked like. All right, so there it is. That is the final rough page. It's not the final page for page 103 of Two Stories, book 2. And thanks for everybody who's participated in the stream. If you haven't yet, please, one of the best ways you can support this stream and indie comics in general is go to Amazon and buy Two Stories book 1. And other than that, I will see you guys on the next stream. Bye. Oh, you're welcome. All right. See you guys. See you on the next stream. Bye, Frank. Bye, Ronnie. Oh, I forgot to mention, check out Ronnie's work, Crimson Owl Comics. Check out Frank's stuff, Salazar Art Nation, and Tarako Cast. And I will see you guys later. Bye.